Tragedy of the Commons is one of the topics that you will read about in today's reading assignment. Pause the video and read through the comic that is shown on your screen. A commons is something that is not privately owned, that is shared by many, and tragedy of the commons is when that commons is used unsustainably. Some of the ways that we can protect these commons or free access resources if access is limited. For example, national parks, they let in a certain number of people each day. Reducing the population. Population size and population growth is one of our major causes of environmental problems. So if we can stop this population growth, that will help protect our free access resources. If we convert these free access resources to private ownerships, private owners may take better care of the resources, but on the other hand, they might not protect the resources. Global resources such as oceans, air, migratory birds, things like that can't be made private property. You can't take a certain area of the ocean and say, okay, I own this quadrant. And access to resources would be eliminated or reduced for people that needed that resource if it was made, if it was privatized. Another way to protect free access resources is to have laws and treaties that regulate, but at the same time you would have to have someone to actually enforce these regulations. We'll do a case study in the next class period where we do another example of tragedy of the commons and talk about some of the ways that that particular resource can be protected. The four basic causes of environmental problems, probably the biggest, is rapid population growth. Our population is growing exponentially, which we'll take a look at what that means. And unless we do something about our population growth, then we are very quickly going to run out of our resources. Unsustainable resource use, one of the terms that we will keep referring to over and over this year is sustainability, which is the idea that if we are sustainable, we are using resources at a rate that they're still going to be present for future use. The third cause is poverty, and the fourth is not including environmental costs and environment prices. You might wonder why poverty is a cause of environmental problems. Well, those that live in poverty are just trying to fulfill their basic needs day to day. Basic needs like food, water, shelter, health, education. And desperation leads to degradation of resources that are potentially renewable. For example, deforestation. Also degradation of soils, grasslands, fisheries, wildlife. Things that could be potentially renewable, but if they are used at a rate that's faster than they can be replenished, then they become non-renewable. We also tend to see large populations of those that live in poverty in our less developed or less economically developed countries. Not including environmental costs in market prices are when companies are not required to pay for the environmental costs of their goods. A company's primary goal is to maximize their profits for their stockholders, and that's a big part of capitalism. So as a result, the prices of their goods and services do not include the harmful environmental costs. For example, a fishing company is going to charge for the cost of catching fish, but does not charge for the depletion of those fish stocks for future fishermen. There are government subsidies in place. A subsidy is a tax break or a payment which lowers, once again, the cost of goods and services. So now the value of the natural capital is also not included in the market price. And when goods are cheaper and more affordable, that further encourages depletion and degradation.